We hope you're correct. A question again from social media at Neil Show Now in 3D. What is your message for Senator Soto after he inserted such a draconian clause? What do you encourage him to do next?
That's something new. Well, there will be amendments that will be filed, and we do expect him to participate, since, so to speak, he's in the eye of the storm here.
Yes.
And in the spirit of openness, I think he will participate, and we will see how he will conduct himself.
What's going to be done next? So you talked about crowdsourcing on Monday.
Yes.
What's in you filed a case, petition at the Supreme Court also.
Yeah,
right?
actually, you can do both.
Right.
Parallel, what do you call that? Paths.
Yes.
One is the Supreme Court, and one is amendatory.
Correct.
Because we can. But the problem there is, you must realize that this infringes on the basic rights of citizens. So time is of the essence. The sooner this is declared by the Supreme Court, and I'm very confident that it will be declared unconstitutional, the better for all of us. And if you do it through the legislative process, you have to do it through a process that takes a long time.
Correct.
And with the elections, the campaign period around the corner,
Yes.
Your guess is as good as mine as to when the amendments will finally become law.
So really a lot depends on the Supreme Court
A
right
lot
now.
depends on the Supreme
I
Court.
hope the justices are also
Yes,
listening.
yes. You were asking my message. My main message is really to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
They now, the institution that they represent is now being tasked to say the Constitution is being violated. You are the guardians of our rights.
Yes.
Please make a decision.
In many ways, this is what we've seen on social media. There's a feeling of betrayal, I suppose, because all three branches of government, to a degree, the Supreme Court being the last one, but, the legislative passed the law. The president, the executive, signed the law.
But in fairness to the Supreme Court, they haven't made
Yes,
any judgment
now it
yet.
is. Yes, correct. It's on their door now. So I think
Yes.
that's part of it. A question again from social media, from at I am Claude 24. What do you think might be the main reason the senators pursued the cybercrime law?
Pursued?
Pursued. The main reason of these senators for pursuing the cybercrime law.
I cannot answer for them. That goes into motives. And
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I cannot answer for them.
But there was certainly, Senator Soto has been vocal about his concerns about the freedom on the internet. I think that's part of the
That
reason
should be
he's been
addressed
pegged.
too, right?
Yes.
That should be addressed
Yes.
too. There's
Abuses,
such a thing
because there really are abuses.
cyberbullying
Correct.
and all that. Yes, that should be addressed. And yeah, even the media were asking me about the hacking, and I say that's really wrong. That's
Correct. That's
akin-
illegal.
Yeah, it's illegal, and it
Yeah.
should not be allowed. It should be condemned in its
Yeah.
strongest sense. That's why it's important now that we also craft a amendatory law incorporating the concept of protecting the rights of ordinary citizens against cyberbullying.
Agree.
Now, that being said, sounds good, no?
Yes.
But now we have to sit down and write the law.
Yes.
Nitty-gritty. How do you make it a reality? How do you make it enforceable?
Yes.
And as they say, the devil is in the details. That's why I think this crowdsourcing law will help, because
Yes.
really, the more minds helping out in crafting a law is better.
Yes.
And the more participative it is. Remember, transparency, accountability, openness, and people participation.
Yes. Actually, that's what the Internet Act would allow now. It's democracy to a level that we've never really had before. Can I ask you now about the actual law itself, this process that you're going through, that you went through for this law? You talked about things that could be done better moving forward. Any other things there?
The other thing maybe is we were thinking about whatever transcripts of the senators, everything on the Senate committee reports, transcripts should be put up on the web.
Yes.
As near as real time. Kanina we were talking about it with my staff. Dapat sana real time.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's a reasonable imposition on the Senate staff. After all, it's the Senate staff that will do the that will do the, what do you call that, stenography and all
Yes, yes,
that. You can do streaming, live streaming and all that, but
Yes.
that doesn't help because it's not recorded.
Yes,
People
yes.
don't have photographic memories, but when it's put down in digital form, then that's when it can be commented on and studied. The important part is it has to be first studied and then commented on.
What made this law, what was different about it, that it passed so fast, considering that we've got, the RH bill pending for 14 years, more than 14 years, you've got FOI also pending. Those have real scrutiny on them, but this one just seemed to slip under the radar. What made it, was there anything different about this law?
Well, lack of oppositors.
Again, I go back to the question of why were you the only lone voice against it? Any other insights to why you may have been the only lone
Well,
voice?
it might be speculative. I wouldn't like to venture in there.
So what should people do now? So we know it's waiting at the Supreme Court. They say they'll tackle it again on Tuesday. In the interim period, this is great about crowdsourcing that opens up more participation for Filipinos. What else should people on the net do?
Keep discussing it and keep talking about it because the pressure that they are exerting is bearing fruit. How many senators have already said they will file amendatory bills to clarify, to
Correct.
fix it, to whatever it. And that is a product of the netizens' pressure.
Yes.
I do love that picture where there are people on jail and then tinanong siya, anong kasalanan mo? Well, nag-tweet ako. Yung isa nag-like daw siya and all that. It's funny, but it is very, very eloquent statement, very
Yes.
potent statement.
Yes. What do you think this is the first time we've seen such an uproar over a recently passed law. What does this show about where we are today in the state of democracy in the Philippines?
It shows our democracy is vibrant. It shows that people will not take their infringement on their liberties sitting down. No, they will not. And now they have another venue. You remember before, during the 80s, when we were young? During the 80s, the only venue you had was, especially during martial laws, to go to the streets.
Correct.
And the state could use its coercive power against you in the streets.
Correct.
But in the net, we have the power of the citizens that is supreme.
This case could also, though, redefine accountability for lawmakers, for example. Any potential backlash? That
Oh,
you can
most
see?
definitely, most definitely. I think it's fair to say there will be a greater amount of zealousness on the part of lawmakers after this whole incident.
It's not just, it's Congress and the Senate, right? Right now, what we've seen on the web, the senators have been singled out because it's a smaller body. But that kind of scrutiny now is being done because people are asking, how did this happen?
Yes, because it takes two to tango. And
Correct.
so the House of Representatives, it did have its counterpart in the House of Representatives.
I have to throw you a question from a colleague who just tweeted it at Chai Hofilenya. How can senators who resort to insertions be made accountable?
Okay. Okay. First, we have to establish that fact first.
Sure.
If it's a fact,
Okay.
that might be speculation at this point. So establish that first. Second, well, the net is one. The pressure on the net is
Yes.
one.
Yes.
And there is also a committee on ethics
Yes.
in the House of Representatives. And,
Yes.
and I'm talking in general, legislators, no?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Part of, again, the reason I think that the virtual world is looking very closely is because of what was said in Senate privilege speeches and the lack of accountability. At least that's the way it's perceived. So the Senate Ethics Committee, in that sense, hasn't tackled it. That's part of, in the end, people want to be reassured that the institution is working. How can you reassure Filipinos that that is the case?
Well, for one, I'm part of that institution, and I did vote against it, and we did question it in the Supreme Court.
TG, the lone soul voice.
No, really, but and as I said, experience is the best teacher. And this might have been a painful experience for all of us. And you can expect a lot more zealousness.
We hope so. Last question from the web. At Neil Show in 3D, your message for our foreign guests in the country regarding the Cybercrime Act. Actually followed that through with, what about Filipinos who are overseas? Are they also, can they be held liable for anything they tweet or they like? Are they governed by the cybercrime law?
Principle of territoriality, that was brought up. I'm not too clear on that. That's one thing we can address also, but I'm not too clear on that. So I'm sorry, I cannot answer that.
And I think Neil's Show in 3D is just asking, what about the foreigners who are in the country? How will the Cybercrime Act affect them?
It should affect them too, because the law does not distinguish.
Your last statements.
Well, our country is a democracy, and a democracy that is still a young democracy, but is rapidly moving in step, sana, with the modern world. And it's quite lamentable that this law has been passed with its provisions which are clearly, patently unconstitutional. But the outpouring, the uproar,
Yes.
of against this law has been so much that it shows that our democracy is very vibrant, and our citizens will not take an infringement on their civil liberties sitting down.
How can you reassure Filipinos that the institutions work?
Our institutions work. You must remember, it's easy to forget, but our institutions work. Look at this. For the first time, we had an impeachment that actually went through all the way, following the constitutional processes, all the way to the end. The last impeachment we had, to finish it, the people had to go to the streets. Was that constitutional? No.
Yes.
But this time, we followed the spirit and the letter of the Constitution. So our institutions do work.
We'll certainly keep watching. Senator Gunigona, thank you so much for defending our Constitution and freedom. We've been speaking with Senator T.G. Gunigona, the lone voice of dissent in the Senate against the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012. He is on Twitter. His Twitter account is at TG Gunigona. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and put it on Facebook or on Twitter. We'll try to make sure that we can get it to him. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's keep watching. This is Maria Ressa. See you at Next Talk Thursday.